first of all say thank you to Seema Mehta, Seema D, and all of the students in Nritya Bharati for all these wonderful initiatives that you do, whether we're sharing in young students sharing their work over Zoom, the ongoing classes you do, of course, and highlighting the work of our guru, Pandit Chitresh Das, and also for allowing me to really do something very close to my heart today. And, you know, many of the things about Rinaji, Srimati Rina Singha, Rinaji's life will come into the foreground during our interview, but our talk, not really an interview, but what I really wanted to say as my introduction is this lovely woman that you're seeing on the screen beside me has been such a beacon and matriarch to our Kathak family here in Toronto, has always shown me, since we first met in 1986, which I figured was a long time ago now, Rina G, it's over 30 years, has always shown such generosity and kindness, and is always open to young artists, to more established artists, and is such an incredible leader in the community, and really acting as a true mentor. And you've really guided me in how to age gracefully in my community myself, Rina G. So I want to really thank you for the wonderful role that you've set the bar high. And we're trying to live up to that. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for your time today. So we'll just launch in, if that's all right. Are you good?
Yeah. When you say
Okay.
thank, when you say, I will try not to digress too much, but when you say set the bar high, I think of how I was treated by all the gurus in Bharatiya Kala Kendra, which I knew nothing about Indian classical dance or guru system or anything. I was brought up in boarding schools, as I told you, and only didn't even have an idea of what the social culture was outside the school. So, which was just from the age of 3.5, I had my fourth birthday in a school and went straight all till I did. But when I arrived at Bharatiya Kala Kendra, one I think who influenced me, other than Shambhu Maharaj, of course, but in how to behave with other artists was from the Daga brothers and his
Mm.
leadership, because he was our music composer. Can you imagine? They asked him to compose music for us. So of course he took everything to a very high level, and all his students were in the orchestra. When he traveled with us, he was the one who traveled. So I think a lot, when I think back after I've been talking to you, is their legacy. Those gurus, Hafiz Ali Khan Sahab, mainly the Daga brothers, because we had more interaction with them outside the class, because we were seeing him on a day-to-day level. And I'm so thankful to that, because there was so much love. They were up there and we were like grains of sand on the seashore. And still the whole atmosphere used to be, if we've taken you on, all of us gurus have taken you nobodies as being, like we were not even in the families or gharanas or anything. And if you've come to us with the conviction that we are going to help you, then you put yourselves in our hands. We'll make sure you make it. That was the kind of atmosphere we lived in. It was very loving, and so I think I'm glad you noticed that. So I think it's their legacy that's been going on to you. Yeah.
Well, thank you all, and we all thank you. That leads us perfectly into this first question, I think, or first sort of, if you could just briefly describe your young days in India and bring us into how you actually came into the environment with all these great ones. What was the situation in India that allowed that to happen?
Well, I was in a boarding school because of whatever. We were children. I mean, I'm now 84, so um,
Don't worry,
yeah,
turn that off.
okay. Uh, so I was 3.5, or what circumstances happened, but three of us went off to boarding schools. We were always in mission schools, and in the early years, in different schools. So I had Urdu medium, English medium, and I was in grade one at 3.5, just 4. I didn't even know what was going on, but I was there because my older sister was there and she could hold my hand and not give the trouble to the others, I think. So it was very strange. And we came home for holidays only 3 times a year. So we really never had social interaction with the outside world. only the mission schools. And then we came home and, little children, we are playing with our brothers and sisters. We're not going out into the world to see what social culture is all about. I didn't know anything about all that. So I never really met any of that. Now, when I came in, I was 14 when I joined university. My older sister went off for typing, and that's the first time I was in one place. Like, we were not in a boarding school. 1 year I was at home, and everybody dispersed. My mother went for sitar classes. My sister went for typing classes. Youngest sister went for kindergarten, and my mother knew I loved dancing. She said the government school had opened. That's another area. The government had opened up, taken these great gurus, and after they abolished the princely states, then all these great gurus who were kept by the Nawabs or kings or Rajas, Maharajas, now had nowhere. They didn't have the same privy purse. So their disciples were dispersed. But what to do with these valuable people? The government started a scheme for popularizing true classical art in all the cities, major cities. Government School of Music and Dance, it was called. And they were hoping that some of that would filter down to us. And we would carry on. We were chosen because could dance. I did all those auditions, but also because we were educated and interested in research and all of that. So this is how I came into that place, which then I attended the school, and I was studying with Ramakrishna Shuklaji, who was a student of Shambhu Maharaj, and that's why I had a direct link all the way to Shambhu Maharaj without knowing A or C or side or anything.
Now, that direct link, where you weren't in Delhi at that time, though. You studied
No,
with him in Hyderabad, wasn't it?
I studied under Shuklaji, and he directed me to. And all the time, I didn't think in those days, dancing was not considered a very respectable profession. And everybody drummed that, okay, you can go and dance, but don't become a dancer. They were telling us, you go to university, you study, and that's the thing. So we never even, I at least, never thought of dance as a profession that I would make money out of. I just thought I'll make money from my whatever else. But my passion was dance, yeah. And I was very grateful to be 2 years I had in hand, because I was too young to get any into the other programs. So that's it.
And what year would this have been when you went to Bharati Kalakandra?
57. 57. I just finished my master's exams, second year, and went straight to, after my final exam, went and joined. I should have joined in March or May or something, or March or January, but I waited till I finished my exam and then went there.
Okay. And just out of interest, I'm going to get into the details of what a daily class environment would have looked like. But what other was it a school that offered, an institution that offered various art forms, or was it Kathak specific? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I think it wasn't meant to be, because this was a gathering. He was a great master artist in these old military barracks, he had, and they brought them there, and then, so we never thought of it as going to class, like I pay a fee and you give me that amount of money, like we get a bit of around now in the present day. So it was just, we, Maharaji came to class at 9, but from there we would hear him coming, singing, or what mood he was in. We'd get very nervous. We know, oh, today he's going to really make us do tatkar ke, we'd be all of those. And the method of teaching, so each guru did their own thing. There was always people coming over, but they didn't come and disturb the class. They would come and sit, and they're all high-powered connoisseur people who knew all about art. So, and they were, no matter what we learned, we had to start from beginning. So first of all, we'd come in and Maharaji would bless our bells, we'd put them on, and then Vilambit like, we have to start. Pehle nigaah banao. I didn't know what nigaah banao meant. Looking here, he said nigaah banao. And sometimes he'd call me Lichi because I had big eyes. Abhi nigaah banao. Trying to figure out, oh, what is nigaah banao? But it was so beautiful. I mean, I remember going into, when I first came to meet Maharaji, and only Maya Rao and Bela Arnab and Keshav were there in the class. And I just went in very hesitant, didn't know who Shambhu Maharaj was, didn't even know he's a great man or whatever like that. I only knew I was told to go to him. And then they were doing the thats and just hey ta ta ta. That's, and I was sold on this art form. Just that. And so just, and the slowness of it, each beat had its own role to play. And we were not chasing the sum, oh, we have to be there on the sum. You couldn't go to the next beat till you did this beat. So you did the wrist on one beat, you did the neck on one beat, and then it opened up to the sum. So, oh, it was so beautiful. So I was sold on it.
Fantastic.
And that was our class. And we had about a 2 or 3 hour class, 4 hours. And then anyway, after that, we had to go to the, Nirmala Joshi was sitting there on making sure that all these educated men and women that she brought in would go in the way she had channeled us. You have to be in the, I don't want you to see anywhere, come straight to the library. So we go to the library, beautiful place. I was anyway very much into research and academics, and geography was my subject. And I'd always, when I saw the first folk dance festival, Republic Day, I said, if somebody had shown me this, I'd understand the whole geography of India, So I was minded that way. So then I would sneak out of the class and not tell Maharaj, of course he knew, because we'd not to go and see any other dance form and all that. So we'd come back, if we made a mistake, he said, Abhi Bharatnatyam kar rahi. It was Kathak or Bharatnatyam. He didn't do any other. And he said, don't bring that Bharatnatyam. I was telling Manika that one day. So if you ever made a mistake, Maharaj, he said that. Anyway, so then we were in this fabulous vault of all the documentation that was being done. At that time, they used to say there were 4 classical styles. Then they added Orisi afterwards. Orisi was added up, then other forms. And by the time I finished there, they were calling it 7 styles. Now they've discovered many more. So I was researching, I was very much into that. All the audio and the papers, Sangeet Natak Academy regularly had meetings with the gurus who would come in, visiting gurus, and they would tape it all. And now, after you told me, the book that I wrote, Indian Dances, Their History and Growth, was based on all that research. I had piles of that research. Now, when I left England, Faber and Faber commissioned that book, but they wanted somebody to edit it there. So Reginald Massey was a family friend. He was wanting to be in a writer. So I would longhand, and I had our deadline for the book manuscript to be in was end of December 65. We came here in 65 July. I was very busy with all this, and I had my little daughter too. And I had all these papers and everything was in my head, but I had actually put pen to paper, how it does. So it was about end of August that I suddenly woke up to the fact that the manuscript is due. Then longhand, I wrote all those chapters and sent them to Reginald, Reggie, who would edit them. But then he did the whole of the Bharatanatyam section himself. All the other forms were based on my research with all the gurus. And he did the Bharatanatyam because U.S. Krishna Rao was in London at the time. So he was good research, and I had done nothing about it. So this was all done like that. And it's amazing because I listened to them when they came into town. We didn't talk to them, actually. We just listened to them in those days. But we heard firsthand from all these gurus. When the book came out, one of the comments I got from the Kathak dancers was, why did you have to write a book about everybody? Not enough is written about Kathak. You should have mentioned that. And I couldn't say that because I'd interacted, even though not one-on-one, but virtually through their readings, or when they came, listening to them talk, listening to them perform. I couldn't say that Kathak was the only dance style. I like Kathak. For me, Kathak is the only style. And even Maharaj's style was not the only Kathak style. So I was always, because of my geography background, I was very aware that things had to be different. And of course, I never had this the social interaction at early age, which would tell you this is the only way, this is the only way. Anyway, I'm talking too much. You better shut
No, no,
me up.
this is good. So, Rinaji, one of the things that we have set up over the last decade, and we do it in India most of the time, just because have the time, is we come together for retreats where we will
Yeah.
find a space.
Mm-hmm.
Kathak dancers come together. We sleep together. We eat together. We dance
Yeah.
all day. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds very much like we're modeling the reality that you had because you were living on site in the barracks, right? You didn't live somewhere else. You lived.
No, and then actually, the barracks, there were 3 rows of barracks. The ones in front was half Ali Khan Sahab, then
Mhm.
Riju Maharaj Ji, then Shamta Prasad, and then the Katputlis. They had a unit for the Katputli, the Rajasthani puppet people lived in
Oh,
that.
oh,
Well, we didn't see much of them because they were busy doing this stuff. And then our section had Ninaji, who was the administrator, and then one big room. 4 of us lived there, the girls' residence, and then the classes. And behind us, directly behind my window, were the Dagger brothers. They were all the quarters. He would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they would start teaching his brothers. So the
oh,
first Indian classical music that came to me over and over and over again were the Dagger brothers.
oh my goodness.
That is why I'm I guess this is God's doing, because how would I know about music? How would I know about all these things? And I was just open. I was so influenced by them, and that was my adolescence. So I was really influenced by the gurus and respecting gurus. So
Yeah,
I believe in
yeah,
that. So when
yes.
people say, you know me, so I don't like to talk about ill about any artist, because they're all working hard to get to where they get. I mean, we say, oh, they did so badly. No, poor things worked and worked and worked and worked, and next time they'll do better. I mean, you, you have to respect that. They haven't arrived at, but that doesn't mean we are all working in our own direction too. So
Hmm,
that's,
hmm,
anyway,
hmm.
this is
So
this is
I'm gonna ask you to just um, maybe in a little more detail, like in a class, how many people would you generally study with, and can you just roughly give us the flow of a class? Like, would you have live musicians on a regular
live
basis, or
musician. We had a tabla and a harmonium, a
ah,
tabla and a sarangi.
oh, sarangi,
Tabla and
oh,
sarangi,
kya baat hai.
sarangi. That's all. And Maharaji would sit on the thing, and he would let we had to start. So when he would come, he would put it on, and then usually we started with the Thaat, but sometimes we started with we did Thaat and Ahmad. And really, now that I analyze him and I see on that Vilambit Lay, we did Thaat and Ahmad. Of course, we were supposed to have done our Tatkar and all ourselves. I mean, we didn't come. As we'd arrived there, we'd already done some training. But what happened in class? When Maharaj was giving us what he was wanting us to do. So we do that, and that would be a slow thing. A whole routine with 2 Katungas and 1 would take about 20 minutes to half an hour. Each chal leading up to it would be a little different. Aari chal hai, kabhi ye hai, wo hai. But always the fixed thing of when you look, some comes, you look up, then you do this on the, you do this on this, then you look there. All those things were established in us like that. So you shake you up, you'll do it like that. And
Yeah.
other people used to make fun, the other people coming on, acha, abhi especially, the dancers are coming, abhi wahi kar rahe ho, wahi tha kar tunga. I think, and now when I analyze it, I think our entire vocabulary of what we need and how we get from one movement to the other is in that pattern. Now that even now when I go up and I see myself and I say, oh, okay, this is why I did that, because some things I'm doing out of habit and letting go, or I'm old now, I can just dance. No, it doesn't happen. I have to go, because A leads to B leads to C.
Yeah. Wonderful. 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 Um,
No. So then you want to know anything more about the class? Then if Maharaji wanted whatever. Well, after that we would do Gatnikas. Then we got into from the Rangmanch, and that we got into the Natvari Tukras, because that was natural lead in. Then we did also the Tatkar Tukre, which was the Tatita. Those ones were for Tayari.
Mm-hmm.
And right after we finished the thing, we used to usually go into the Gatnikas with Maharaj. He spent a lot of time. That was his specialty, Gatnikas, and all the things of how to do the very detail of every little thing. And the fact that it's not a mime class. You have so in 1 hour, you should only be giving one idea. So if you arrive there too soon, slow down. You can't go to the next action before, those kind of
Yes.
details, which I'm very grateful for, because even
Yes.
now,
Yes.
sometimes you do
Yes.
things in a hurry, and you know why, because you try to do two of those movements in one, and it'll never fit, that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've I think you've painted a really heartfelt and clear picture of what your environment was like. But you mentioned something to me the other day that I think everybody would really like to hear, and it was the crossover of aesthetic between dance and music and painting, and how that all manifested.
Okay. Well, I didn't, as I said, I didn't have the background, but now I'm seeing that all the gurus, Hindustani music is all I can speak about, had the same common aesthetic. So you have a rag, and it arrives, and you know what that melody that they are bringing you back to it. We had our tat, the main pose, okay, and various ways of arriving at the pose. It wasn't the many tat poses. Your main melody as a refrain, as it were, was the tat. So how many ways you get to it, how many parts you take to it, whether you take an ari, on which beat you take that little change, that'll bring you to it. It's not a question of how many poses you know, how many ways you get to that pose. And that
Mm.
kind of an aesthetic you found in music, and you found in everything. So the other thing was, first you do all of this that sets the mood for what you want to do. The mood being that you have to reach, like Abhinay, you have to reach across the audience to the idea that you want. Kathak means storytellers, so that is the main thing. Of course, you have Tayari. We had to do after the very fast chukras at the end, but not in the middle of a Gat Nigas. Because he said, then you're thinking more about showing off. You forget the story, or you lose the character.
Yeah.
Maharaji said once, now we did those dance dramas, you have everybody concentrated on the heroine, Radha, or whoever she was, and the Sakhis do what you like, but be there when the Radha wants you, right? But Maharaji said every Sakhi is looking at Krishna in a different way.
Mm.
If you can she said, they're not all looking at the heroine. They're there because of Krishna. So how are they looking? Each one is looking differently. The day you can look at that and see, okay, this one is thinking this one is thinking this way, then you've arrived at something. And in the middle of that, you can't say, hey, audience, look at me, I'm doing a story. I'm
Well,
sorry,
it
I'm,
seems
I'm
to be
saying it
no.
because if you stop the story and you say, okay, I'll show you a nice fast tukra, now audience has gone from the story to your. So he said
Yeah.
there is a time for your virtuosity. It's at the end of the program,
Yeah.
when you've done everything, and then the climax comes, where you do the showing off of how fast you can go, how slow, but or whatever else you're doing, but not while you're telling the story, because we are Kathaks.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what I took away from it,
Well,
and
and
that's been the way I've led my life.
um, well, that's really amazing, and it speaks so much to the pace of the time too. Like now we're in this contemporary, like we get frustrated if we have to wait 5 seconds for a message to come through on our telephone, and it's just such a different world, and an important one for us as budding artists or attempting artists to take wisdom from those like you that have had this kind of experience. It's really one thing I do want to share that's kind of interesting though, and it makes much more sense to me now. Like when we had regular class with our guru too, um, he wasn't interested in the tatkar and things. He would come to the more senior class and he'd listen outside. And if we weren't dancing and warming up, he'd go and have a cup of coffee and come back. Because I was outside with him once. He goes, "Cello, let's go, let's go." And I want a coffee. They're not ready for me to come in yet. And then so he wanted us also to be really prepared for
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
was going to give us. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's wonderful.
But
So
when you come to this end of the life, you realize that how important those were. But then we didn't realize. We just want to get it right.
could you talk a little bit about performances in the early days, how they came to you, and what was the format, how it sort of happened,
Yeah.
the environment, or where you would
Mm.
perform, or how?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, um, even in my interview for the government grant, when they asked me, "You want to become a dancer?" I said, "No, I want to study dance because because that was what was in our mindset, that it'll be looked down upon. That I still want to dance, I still want to learn, but not to earn a living. And I think when I came here, that seemed to be the way people treated us also. They thought, "Oh, you don't need any money. You just dance and entertain, whatever." I don't know. So I myself was not looking for performances that way. While we were at the Bharati Kalakendra, we were part of their performing unit. So wherever they sent us, we went. I didn't have enough time because I left while I was still, I resigned from there and left. So I never had that period where I would have been looking for a job or looking for people. But I know Shukla ji would send us, and I'm sure the ballet unit, of course, sent us to dance. Nobody paid us. But when I was with Shukla ji, the money I got was for the musicians.
Mm.
So I was not really looking for it. When I came to Canada, when I was in England, I was working here and then odd jobs. And then after that, I got married and I had a little tiny little 9.5 weeks premature baby to take care of by myself. So PhD and all went out the window. And then when I came here, again, the same thing. They were little, I was not thinking of dancing as a profession. Dancing, yes. First thing I did in my little house, I put a plate glass window mirror, which was expensive in those days, installed in my laundry room. So I could go and practice my own Kathak for myself. I was not interested in, I didn't have time to teach anyway because I was busy with Vinita and then I had two children. So I wasn't thinking. So I really can't tell you about that because I wasn't looking for it. I guess if I stayed on, then I would have got into that culture where people were competing and trying to get things. I
But
missed that.
I even mean more than just that. Like you were mentioning to me about how, like now there's this whole, we have this real desire to have everything be as perfect as it possibly can. So we get together with musicians and we rehearse and they know our format, but it wasn't like that for you.
Oh, that would have been considered very wrong and cheating. When the Music Society people decided to have a conference, they would hire X number of tabla players, X number of sarangi players, and whatever harmonium, maybe, I don't know, tampura would be there. And then we went there. When we went there, they'd say, "Okay, you want tabla? Your turn. Okay, you sit down. You sit down." We recited, we danced, and we tried to steer them towards some lera that we liked. Otherwise, they played the standard lera. We didn't want to hear it ever again. And there we are. So we had to be very pakka in our. That is why the slow training helps. And
Hmm.
they wouldn't even do sangat. If you recited it, they felt like it. He'll pray with you. But if not, you just had to arrive at the sum.
Ah, okay.
So this was then. And then even when I started going back, I was quite amazed because I didn't go back till Vinita was about 5 when I left and went back there. And people were saying, "Oh, we have to bring our own musicians." And I used to say, "Why do they have to bring their own musicians?" Then because the musicians have to know what we're doing. Now this was a new concept for me because when
Huh.
we was learning, they gave us whoever they gave. Now the senior gurus and all, they would like when Maya went somewhere, she would have a program, then that song would be done. Even there, the number of repeats were up to the dancer and the musician. Huh? You didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't all.
And in the moment.
That is why listening to Daga Brothers was so important, because the way they led from the Tat into the Gatnikas into the Tukla seamlessly.
Wow.
And not everywhere did we get that, but on my music you'll find that, because that's the kind of music I like, and that's the music I wanted. You know, I didn't like any breaks in it. You always had this kind of smooth intersection, and that's the way it was many moons ago.
Wow. Many moons ago. Well, I am going to jump a few
Go
moons
ahead.
because we are on a
Yeah,
time
no.
line
And don't
here.
let me talk on and on. You just
No, no,
signal
no.
me and I'll stop.
This is absolutely perfect. I'm well. I'm assuming everyone out there is enjoying as much as I am. I'm just, and I know they are. Um, so, uh, you came to Toronto in 1965 for the first time. Obviously, there was not a great deal of Indian art of any type in
Yeah.
our little Canadian society at that time. So you started dancing, and can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to do it and what your initial situations were to actually dance in Toronto during those days and
Yeah.
start teaching?
I was teaching, I got a job in an Anglican convent teaching geography. So I never thought of going out and seeking um, students. Why? Because I think the I forget his name now. The tourist office, the person ahead of he knew about art, and he found out about me. So he set up a program for me to perform at the ROM. And even before that, he
Just
must
what
have
for
mentioned.
everybody, 1 second. The ROM is the Royal Ontario Museum. It's
Oh,
the
sorry
major,
then.
that's
Yeah,
okay. It's the
yeah.
major museum here in Toronto. It's
Museum here, and
very
and that time
world
it was
renowned.
not so vast, and they didn't have. Oh, it's not. It's beautiful. It always was. Anyway, so I was to perform there, and when I left India under some controversy. I said, I don't need dance. I'll go and just do my geography. And I signed and sent off my applications to various universities around the world, and I was gone. So even my bells I'd left there. But Daga Brothers gave me as a parting present a tape of all the solos that I did in the shows. And I said, I don't need that. I'm not going to dance. She said, "Rakh lo, beti, rakh lo. Kabhi kaam aayega, hamari yaad karenge," like that. So humble they were. I cannot tell you the love with which they treated us. So that when I came to England, so there was a gentleman who used to give lectures to the Mr. Angadi, to the History Society, India Society, cultural things. And he found out about me. So he said, when I give a lecture on something, I'll take you along and you can dance 10 minutes. Okay, I did. But I don't remember doing very much. But I think I wasn't far from it, because I like dancing, so I was there.
And Ram Gopal also put you on a
No, now Ram
retainer,
Gopal,
no?
Ninaji came to the troop where I'd left the troop, but they went to Russia just after I left. And Air India would give the ticket between Moscow and London. So Nana Dev came, and I was very close to her. She said, "Come with me today," and she told Ram Gopal that I have an Indian dancer for you to see. So she said, "Oh," and she brought my gungrus back for me, because I left my gungrus even then. I am never going to dance again. I can go and do geography. I don't need this. So she took me there, and then he put me on a retainer right away. And he said, all I want you to do is keep practicing. And here's my studio. You can come here or wherever. But when I want you to come with me on a show, you should be rehearsed. So there are those tapes that the Dagger brothers had given me. I think they were on 1 7/8 or 3 3/4 reel to reel tapes. And I guarded them with my life, and then I danced to that. Yeah, that's how he found out about me, and that's why I toured with him a little bit. Yeah.
And it would just be really interesting for people to hear, not that it matters so much, but this retainer he put you on, how much was that worth for you?
Oh my gosh, it was a lot by those standards, because he was paying me the equivalent of uh, near little more than half a week's salary. which was, so he was giving me £5 a week. I was getting £5 by going to do some part-time job with the Amrit Bazaar Patrika. There, 150 street seats I used to climb up, and they used to do all. I was on the press list because they represented Pioneer and Guyana and somebody in Africa and somewhere, everywhere. So many newspapers. So we were always in the pool for going to events, and my boss didn't go, so I would represent him, and I went to all these events, wherever they were happening. You went to Shakespeare and to Wimbledon, which I didn't know anything. All I knew was everybody's body language. So, I went to all those things. I went to the garden parties, the Archbishop's garden party, the Queen's garden party, all these many events. And of course, I went to the theater a lot. I mean, used to be right there and go line up for hours and hours and hours. So it was a
It's
nice time.
quite amazing to think that you would be on a dance retainer at £4 a week,
Yeah,
4 or 5 pounds a
and that
week.
too, he's not even telling me to do anything but just dance.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
that
I'm
would
going to
bring me
zoom
back.
you ahead. I'm going to zoom you ahead to back to Toronto, if that's okay, because I think it's really important for you to share the story of. So you danced at the ROM and you did some various things, but what
Yeah,
actually?
and that was a very select gathering of arts people. So there was Celia Franca was there, and some of the
Oh,
other people, and all these big shots that time in the whom I didn't know, but I was dancing. You know how we were told, if you have to dance for an hour, you must practice for 3 hours, right? So you can
sure.
practice, and do something. And then I did made up a program out of whatever I had, and at the end of it, they all were very polite, but they were all very fascinated by what I was doing. But one or two of them came up and said, I've never seen such beautiful hands, arm movements. And I nearly cried because I said, you didn't, I thought to myself, you didn't see all the other things I was doing. You only saw that. So then I made up my mind that if I dance, I must somehow um, make it clear what I'm doing. Otherwise, they only look at my hands, my arms. So
Well, you do have
I,
beautiful
I did
hands. They're,
a lot of work on audience building. Yeah,
mm,
at Caravan, I used to go, and many places I would do. I didn't want to go back and dance with as I told you, I danced for the India Canada Association, and everybody was missing India. I missed India so much. So they wanted an Indian dancer to dance for them, and they had a chief guest came and all. Again, I said, we practice and practice and go and dance. Nobody's listening. The children are running. The mics are going up and down. And the guest of honor is more interested. He's more interested in the guest of honor. So sitting right in front of me. So I said, okay, I love you, Indian community, but I'll do my own shows. So I started self-presenting my shows in 1966 already. And my aim was to earn enough money to pay the theater, to pay the technicians, and then go and dance. And then next year, I want to do something else. I did that. Then I was always interested in world dance because I'm a geographer. I was very interested. So I I was always connecting with them, and also all those caravan has so many pavilions. But then
mhm.
I was also assisting Canada Council because at that time the New Age
Canada
movement
Council
was
is a national funding arts funding body for
like the
those who
Sangeet
don't
Natak
know.
Academy type of thing, but they don't have a research unit. They just have the funding. So they by then my book came out. So they hired me to be a consultant for not, we were not allowed to get any money. Our dance forms were not eligible, but there
Hmm.
were a lot of Canadians who discovered India, New Age, yoga, so, they would want to go to India and get a flavor of India. So I would be on the consulting thing, the advisor to the board. And I remember one lady came, she said, I have to go to India. I just want to see those silks, things like that. And we okay, go and see yourself. But anyway, so they knew about me. And I understood that way. Then I was not, it didn't bother me. I was not getting any money. That didn't matter. I was not applying for it. But uh, because we were not even eligible for
Yeah,
any,
that's one of the things that I was wondering
yeah,
too. That I mean, such a trailblazer, you and others like our guru, same way in America. Came in and nobody knew anything about anything, and
yeah,
he actually, till the last days of his life, unlike what we have here in Canada, there were not culturally specific grants available. So he
Yeah.
was always mixed up with.
I helped the Ontario Arts Council set up the cultural specific dance program
I know
because
you did.
Susan Cohen, I was on the faculty of the dance department at York when it opened, and Susan was there. And she'd been observing me over the years. So when she was at the Arts Council, and the moment they said about the having culture, she said, "Rina, I want you to do this." I said, "I don't want to work and be in a place. I want to dance and do my own thing." She kept the job open for me for a year because they got the grant to over a period. I didn't know all those things. So then I said, okay. So she said, okay, I'll give you a 90-day contract because then you can go after 90 days. I said, fine. So 90, I didn't know it meant 90 working days, right? So already it's gone, already it's gone into the so many things. And then I researched because I felt that if I'm feeling that people don't understand, there are all these other people also. So then I made a roster. I set up the plan for them. And I also told them that if you have so much money allocated, the people who are already getting grants or used to writing grants, and that's what happened in the first time that we first set of applications that came in. The majority of the money went to Canadian dancers who knew how to work their application to make it look like they're doing this. Then
Yeah.
and one day they called me down. Susan was there, she said, I have a board meeting. I didn't know what a board meeting at all was. I just, everybody's getting in a board meeting. They're just people, right? She called me down to the board meeting. And then she said she's running the Rina, would you like to say a few words? I said, no, you talk. And she said, no, you tell them. Then I went and I said all this about how many small groups there are, how many people are really wanting to learn, and even the community is against them because when we come to Canada, we want our children to be Canadian. We don't want them to learn about India. The Indian parents used to tell me, we don't want you to teach them about India. I can teach my child about India. So I send my child to ballet class or to piano class or whatever. And you know, we will pay you a little bit. You're not happy if we do. So many of them will start in September, wouldn't pay me till the June almost, you know. So, and I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know how to ask for money. So it just, I mean, those are all personal things, but it's the value system because they didn't think of that as a valuable thing that you do now. Now, Bharatanatyam people are different because right from the beginning, the girls learn Bharatanatyam, the boys learn music, they have a built-in audience, they have the sabhas, so the whole society there is respecting the arts. Whereas North India, all our best gurus were in the Rajas and Maharajas, and what came down to them was what the common man saw. At the most, we liked when the Indian movies did something on classical music. But otherwise, we, by and large, the ordinary people didn't know about it. So that's one of the things we had.
Well,
Anyway,
you've been such a trailblazer for things, and this is very similar to the work that our guru has
yeah,
done
for
since
sure.
he arrived in North America in 1971. So I would like to just two more things. I would like you to actually, if you wouldn't mind reflecting a little bit on when I had the great honor of introducing you to my Guruji, to Pandit Chitresh Das, and you met him many times. And then, Seema, you let me know, but I was thinking maybe we have 15 minutes left. So I was thinking for maybe the last 10 minutes or so, we could open up to some questions. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Personally, I would love to hear both of you talk a little bit longer, if that's okay, because I'm learning so much and I'm frantically taking notes because there's so much
Okay.
to
Well,
listen to and learn.
there
And then
is,
we
there
can open
is.
questions. I
But
think we
okay,
can still,
okay, so
yeah.
we'll keep going for a while then. So, Rinaji, if you wouldn't mind, just because many of us that are online here with you today from India, the States, and in Toronto, in Canada, are affiliated and lovers of Kathak through the work of our guru. So, would you mind reflecting a few points on that firebrand of a dancer that you met in
Right, right is right. Yeah, he came and made you know. Yeah, I met him first. I think a few times with you. Once in
Yes,
your
you did.
there was a big room and I was sitting there and I came and sat at the back, and he pointed me out and he said, "This lady should," because I'd helped you
Yes.
And he said that he was very grateful that I'd helped you. But other than that, see, I really believe that if one brand of Kathak looks different from mine, that's nothing wrong with it, because gurus are important. What the guru sees in you and imparts to you, and if you follow that line, he's taking you somewhere because he's seen you. I'm talking about serious people, and mostly that would have been the kind of people. So I remember seeing him. His rhythm was so good, and I'm trying to remember. I remember the one this so much later when I saw him with that with the table, and he was doing the footwork and doing two different things. I'm like, how do you do that? And yeah, I only saw him perform a couple of times, but the interaction, with I felt that I don't know how to. I um, I was telling you that he really uh, I liked the rhythm, and he was a different way of teaching than mine, because he would demand it and he would do it. I could never do that, but it doesn't mean that I was saying, oh no, because I looked at him as a guru, and I look at you. Now, let me tell you this, because if he's passed on a legacy to you that you still have been doing since the decades that I've seen you, and you are then passing it on to them, this is what the guru is all about. So if I want to judge him, I would judge him through you, because I don't see him that much, but
Yeah.
you are doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
now I'm telling you about what Daga brother did for me, right? And so you don't know that, you've not met them, but you're understanding a little bit about them. What was important to our gurus? But okay, I'm teaching you this, and you must know it by tomorrow. You must do, and you must, and all their aesthetic principles did not change for you,
Mm-hmm.
but they knew
Mm-hmm.
how to fit you into the aesthetic principle. This is what I mean. Now we think, oh, all these modern forms are, let's be like them. We don't even have to be like any other dance form. Why then do they have so many classical dance forms? Why then do they have so many sub-classical dance forms? Because they're following their aesthetic principles, but they're interpreting them their way, but not breaking the rules. Because if you
Yes.
break the rules and you combine I'm glad that fusion thing is not going on now, because that means I do a little bit, you know, uh, mm, diluted stuff. You do a little diluted stuff, and we put it together. It's okay as an experiment, but that cannot be. Now, Danny Grossman,
Yes.
and I
Who
started.
I'm just going to give them some context. So Danny Grossman is originally from San Francisco, actually, and
Yeah.
came to Canada, and for decades had one of the premier Danny Grossman dance company, contemporary dance companies in the country. Okay, so Rinaji, take it away.
Yeah. So I used to, when Premier Dance Theatre first opened here, I used to take the subscription, find money to go to all the shows, because I wanted to know what this mainstream is, which I'm not. I want to know what they're doing, right? So I used to go. I used to go to ballet. Was too expensive, but I used to go to the major companies that came. Danny's I could understand, because it's a narrative form. He comes from a civil background. My mother was a freedom fighter, so we met. His imagery he took from, and I'm a Christian, and when I started doing more biblical work, because I found, as our arts leaders in our spirituality, I had to go my way, which so I didn't know how I would do it, because there's no Christian lyrics and all of that. Anyway, that's another whole story. But uh, when the first Gulf War was there, and I did a piece at the harbor. It was the first time Harbourfront gave us the theater, and for non-Western dance, and I did a piece on the um called uh, women victims of the Gulf War. And it was just at the end, because we were doing this happy thing about the earth. I'm saying, why are we doing happy things? Look at, every day you go and you see the TV and the bombs are falling on us, all of that. So I did that, women victims, and then used the Kathak, three women in 3 houses doing their gadbhaus, one Shanta and Laura and I had the baby, and it was a lullaby and lament. So we were all doing our separate gadbhaus, and the lights went from one to the other to the other. And then I happened to have this music I had created for the bronze serpent, which had already had the for the
Yes.
snakes, which
Yes.
I used for the air raids. So the air raids come and everything's gone, and then the women go back and they try to find their pieces or whatever they're left of their house, and then I find that my baby's dead. So what difference does it make whether the world is coming apart? So I'm sitting in the middle, and when the sirens came again, everybody runs, but I don't run. So and then we ended with, and in the last days, then everybody will sit under his own thing, a voice from God, the echo voice.
Yeah.
Now, Danny was in the audience, and that appealed to him because he and I think alike. We discovered that. So we started this one piece that he started with me then. Soon after, he wanted me to do a piece with his company, and I was doing on the Four Horsemen. And then all these years later, I did a little bit, and I wanted them to do everything on jatis. All Four Horsemen had 4 jatis and all of this. But I was not totally happy. They were very good, his company. They really worked hard on all the rhythms, all the jatis and all. Finally, this last year when we did in 2019, we did a combined show, Danny and I, called the Storytellers, and we finally got it right. Yes, because now the rhythms were being done at a sophisticated level. The dancers were dancing at his work was being done at his sophisticated level. My work was being done, and I thought, finally, you know how many years, that about 20 years or more, that we've been working together on various times, but we never hit it right. That was the time we hit it right.
How beautiful. How beautiful. So I know no, you've been amazing. You have been absolutely amazing. And I wondered if you would like to talk just a tiny little bit about something that's very close to your heart, and that is the Kathak Matsav.
Kathak Matsav. Yes, because when I always remember that lady telling me, "Oh, your arms are so beautiful." But I found that because the general Indian public was more used to Bharatanatyam because they've seen it more often, they didn't understand our aesthetics. So they think Kathak's all about banging your feet and everybody clapping or turning 20 times. And that's not what Kathak is all about. And we tell them Kathak's storytelling, and then we go into just the feet. I said, okay, we all are limited by who's invited us to perform. I know everybody wants to do their own thing. So I said we should have a Kathak Mahotsav. It was not meant for general, people could come and see. But we were, the goal of the Mahotsav was for Kathaks getting together with other Kathaks, seeing each other's work, encouraging each other, and understanding what they're coming. Not to say, oh, your brand is like this. None of that was allowed. We just came together. And in fact, as the first Mahotsav, we were all on stage. One was reciting and everybody was doing their own way, remember?
Yeah,
we were more on the stage than in the audience. And if people say, oh, you don't have enough. See, I never was oriented that way. If you, like I told you, I earned enough money to pay for my theater and go and dance and come back. And nobody came. I did my dancing.
Well, filling a theater is a whole other.
No, but I wasn't that. But that was not my goal. My goal was for the Kathaks to get together, and we did have a great time together.
We did.
We were able to see each other's work, and we say we could, not competing, but connecting. And that was this was after after I was 70. So I said, okay, now no, they're not seeing me as I was never in anybody's competing anyway, because they're doing their own things. But this was a way of blessing everybody. Let's all come together and do it. That was the spirit of the Kathak Mahotsav.
Well, I think we need to reinstate it after COVID lets up a bit, don't you? I think it would be great. And I'm going to ask, sorry, no, you go ahead, say. No, say, please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I've forgotten now.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
No wonder we can talk so well. We can't remember anything for me. I'm the same way. Seema, I was wondering if you could just open it up so that we can see everybody for a minute. if that's okay?
Sure. Can
Thank
we
you.
request everyone to please turn on their cameras? And
I have to get my glasses.
we can open up for questions. Are you able to see in the gallery view,
Oh,
Joanna?
let's Rinaji,
Yeah.
if you go up into your upper right corner, do you see a word that says view?
I have to get my see what's view. No. Well, what is there? There's an arrow. Do I just press that? Oh, Roy's coming. Roy's coming.
Oh,
He's
Roy's
fine.
coming. Okay.
It says something chat. Chat. Should I
No,
press
no,
that?
we don't need that. We're up in the top. Roy,
I'm just coming in. Yeah. Okay.
great. Thank you. It's so great that you. Can you please put Rinaji into the gallery view so that she can see all of us?
Yeah.
Oh, just put me like that.
Yeah. See, now you were going to be teeny tiny, all of us.
I'm in the dark ages when it comes to
Can you
this.
see it?
Oh,
Can you see it? Is
Okay.
that what you want?
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
is
we
that
want.
your
Yeah.
Joanne want? Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what. Can you? Yeah.
You
It
okay?
works?
Everybody?
I can
Can
see
you,
everybody.
I can't. Is she muted? No, she's not muted. She's okay. All right. All right.
Okay, better stay a minute till they ask me something.
Rinaji, can you see a bunch of little screens with people?
Yeah. 1,
Oh,
2,
good,
3,
good.
4,
Okay,
5,
that's all
6,
I
7.
wanted.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's all I wanted. I
Great.
just wanted to be able to have us.
I want to be in it too.
Oh, hi, Roy. This is Rinaji's husband, and he's been really, really helpful to get us all online here today.
Because
So-
I'm in the dark ages when it comes to
Well, Rinaji, there
technology.
was something that I wanted to say to
Yeah.
you that I
Yeah.
wanted everybody to sort of partake in. And that is over the course of these last couple of times talking with you, and I could get a little emotional, I just have come to realize what an incredibly generous resource you are. And I would really love, when COVID lets up, everyone, listen up. I would love for us to come together in Toronto and to really spend some days working with you on all of these nuances and these wonderful histories of Kathak that you could share with
Yeah.
all of us. And I've already arranged it for myself. I'm sorry, I'm being a little selfish.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm
I
glad
wanted
you.
to spend some
I'm
time.
glad. I feel there's so much inside me, and it's so nice to know that there. It's eternal. You know, each of those things, they don't pass away with time, and each discipline has their own thing. So it is a precious. That's why we call the last. Remember the last concert, we called it Precious Legacies. And
Yes.
I asked each dancer to dance something in honor of their own gurus, and they had to bring their guru's legacy to the stage. These are all
Yes.
Kathak dancers, and because I wanted them to think of it like that, rather than that day is gone when you have to compete with one another. No, you have resources so much inside you if you take the time to take it out and
It's
shape
very
it.
true. And, I honestly think that we are the benefactors of the fact that you are a woman
Oh yeah, yeah,
and a mother and a
yeah,
matriarch. It's a
yeah,
very different energy.
yeah,
Nothing better than the other. It's just a very
yeah,
different energy. And it's one that we don't get very often.
yeah. But Maharaji, my Shambhu Maharaji, he could read women's. That's why he told me to look at each one looking differently at Krishna. You can see, or even at God, what their needs are, what they're doing. He had that great, and I think all of us who are dancers, we automatically read body language. Nobody, I mean, you can be saying one thing, we know what you're thinking, because, I mean,
so true.
it comes with a job, right? I mean, if you're really serious about it and you get off yourself, how will I look? How do I look? And you're observing, you see so much. I live in a residence with all older people. The stories I hear from them, it's amazing. And I find this common ground, like you're saying, women, you can be seeing they all have the same thing with the children. They all have the problems. They all react through feelings rather than only head, do the right thing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well,
It's been wonderful.
Rinaji, we're going to make that happen. Okay. We're going to definitely
Good.
make that happen.
Do it because I still have something to give. I want to give it. My own
And we would
gurus, lovely things. Yeah.
we would love to be the receivers of that. So here, and maybe you'll finally be able to do that visit with both your sisters. I hear one of them's having a birthday in Delhi tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was doing. Then I
Yeah.
danced to some funny things. She's a advertiser and she does all the ditties and things. It was so difficult to dance to it. She said, "Oh, you're too highbrow." I said, "Not highbrow to dance."
But
It
anyway,
doesn't.
maybe
It doesn't.
we'll
International folk dancing. I hear the music, traditional music, goes straight into my heart, and I can dance.
yeah.
You know, it's that's that listening to the Dagger brothers, because our classical comes from the folk, from the real folk.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
and you know when it fits, you know when it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
between people coming to
no
Toronto
more talking.
and maybe you coming to India, we'll make it happen on both continents.
Yeah, that would be
But I
great.
think it's something that I'm going to work with Seema and Gretchen, and we'll make that happen.
And I know
Gladly,
who
it
are all
would be
these people? Can they tell me their
incredible.
names? Can
Yeah,
they tell me their
Seema, can
names?
you I can. Well, I see right now. There's some. Can Toronto-based people throw your hands up in the air on this screen?
Okay.
There's
Oh, 3 of you.
Toronto-based. Yeah,
Okay.
more than 3, but that's
And
maybe
my eyes are like
Oh,
this,
it's
so
actually
I see you
also
tiny. Yeah. And the others?
Rinaji, there's pages of people. You have to
Yeah, here I'm
scroll
flipping the
through a
page
lot
now.
of pages. There's many
There's a
more.
Okay,
lot of
fine.
people
So
here.
we won't get
Okay.
into introductions
No,
because we have more
don't get
to
into it.
listen to
But it's
you.
nice to know if you're interested. Yeah, this is great. This is
No,
our history of our art. So it should be.
only
It's,
the interested people are here today. So
that's
everyone's
okay.
interested is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
well, some people can't make it because
Ah,
they're busy doing things. Yeah.
excellent idea. Vibhu suggests that we send you screenshots, which I'm going to set one up right now, and then I'll flip it over to the next screen.
Yeah,
There's
that's
one.
okay. Nice
Joanna,
to see
can I
smiley
jump
people.
into a question if that's okay?
Please.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Rinaji, could you talk more about the nuances and the aesthetics when you talk about the aesthetics from the Dagger brothers and how you translated that through movement and through dance aesthetics?
Yeah. See, I didn't know all those things, big terms that's what I was doing. But I know I came away from India in a hurry. And one day in England, I was looking at, when I looked at the miniature paintings, I used to say, oh, the dumb women just sit there, and then the words say something else. But then I got one portfolio. I think I paid, must have been all of that, £5 for that one, 5 guineas for that one. And I brought it home. It was the Abhisarika Naika. And I started looking at it. And then I realized all the metaphors that were around the border. And I said, what I'm missing from my guru not telling me about these things, I'm learning. That is where the common aesthetics come in from. So she's sitting there and you look at her, what is she saying? We don't really know. She's looking all demure. But what she's thinking and what she's feeling is on all the border, all around her. And 12 years of study I did on the miniature paintings before I did my first show on the miniature paintings. Because I didn't have this time thing of having to go and make, I was doing it because I really was interested. So I found, that is why I say so much that all the art forms have a common aesthetics. It used to be because they were all integrated arts. Music, painting, sculpture, all of these literature all comes together. But we were concentrating on the words. So the words said something. Where did they get their metaphors from? Same place that the painters got it. Same place that the poets got it from. So this is another side of me. I don't know how to get rid of my books and things. Oh, I do have things. If anybody wants, I'll have to tell Joanna, and you can see there's some other things that people want, the Kathak thing, because at least I should have them in one place. If I drop dead tomorrow, somebody can But they say, you don't need these books anymore. You can get it on the I don't know the computer, but they say you can get it all. But I spend hours looking at those still. I'll go to tidy up my bookshelf and I'm sitting there with one or the other paintings.
Which brings to mind a question. Are your books still in print? Are we able to order
No,
your books?
somebody got one out of Amazon.
Oh.
I managed to get one, and it was the last copy. My mother, when she passed away, she gave me her copy, which I brought away, and my younger sister said, I don't have a copy, but they're not into dance. So if somebody dances wants them, then
I've only seen them in
when
Robart's library.
yeah, and when it's like it was really, I was totally involved with those gurus who were talking. And when I did the Manipur, the gentleman from New York who fell down and couldn't dance, a Manipur dancer. His wife's a Canadian girl. She wrote to me. Remember, she went to Manipur and she got married there. Anyway, she used to translate for her guru, when she was there. And when I was communicating with them, because I was very fascinated with Manipuri, because what we see of Manipuri and what is going on, we don't really know. So I got a lot from them. And then he sent me a message via her to say that I was the first one who really understood what he was trying to say, because everybody was looking at the Bombay style of Manipuri and not the Manipur style of Manipuri. Anyway,
Wow.
I
Not
just...
Guru Bipin Singh. Not Guru Bipin Singh.
No, Guru Bipin Singh was no. Her guru in Manipur, not the Bombay people, not Naina, the Javeri sisters. They were also doing their own dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is because we were in that Govind Vidyarthi and Mayara were doing all the documentation at that time. See, I was at the time when all this was starting, and Nirmalaji mandated, I don't want to see you anywhere after class. I want to see you in my library. I don't know where the others went. I went to the library because I was drawn to it. And afterwards, I used to go there, even when I had spare time, and I used to go there. They said, oh, if something happens to some of our library, we can always go to Rina and get some from there. Because I was always getting the music, not even related to Kathak necessarily. I wasn't only getting Kathak music, because I was interested in just the whole ethnology part of dance as a reflection of our culture and our customs and our ways of thinking and all of that. Anyway, so all of you are very kindly listening to my words.
Prachi has a question.
Yes. Who has a question?
I have a question. Namaskar, Rinaji. Namaskar, Joanna ji.
Yeah.
Rinaji, I wanted to know, you mentioned that you were always really interested in research, and there's a lot of writing also that you have done around dance. I wanted to understand, this is something I think about a lot too. What is the role of academics and research, especially in the form of writing or written material, as far as a visual art like dance is concerned, and how do you translate one into the other?
See, I can't mention all those things because I was doing it at a time when life was much simpler. I don't know anything about the computer. This is, I'm in, as if all of you are advancing, I'm going back into the dark ages. So I wrote my book longhand and sent those chapters to England. Some of them ended up in the dead letter office things, So what I see is it's good, but sometimes we get hung up on one or the other. Are you practicing, because everything becomes so specialized. I did all that thing because I wanted my own understanding to increase. For what purpose? For my own understanding of my interpretation of dance. And I wasn't even doing it necessarily for somebody else, because at that time I was busy later on I started making all these choreographies, or practically every year I did another thing. It was where I was at in my head. So I'm really not the correct person. It depends on exactly like what you're going to use. Knowledge is always good, but it informs whatever we do. If you're sincerely going after knowledge, when we scratch the surface, we get somewhere. Now, you might find something that might take you off track, that may bring you back. Is knowledge for its own sake. I'm sorry, I can't really answer. My experience has been quickly translated into dance the way I saw it, the way I felt it, the way I lived it, I think. I don't know. And I came here and I found a lot of I had to teach a lecture series at York. The first year when the dance department opened, I was there as a visiting lecturer, and I had to do 3 4-hour lectures or 4 3-hour lectures. I don't know which way it was. And I chose regionalism in world dance in the monsoon dance because I wanted to do classical dances. And then I found a lot of work I did on Japan. And I don't know, it all is the humanity of it, that we are talking about human life and human feelings and that is universal. So how you fit in. I'm not into academics from that point of view. I was, when I was a student, centered on that, but now long life in dance. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I don't know if that at all answers what you want to say. Maybe I'm the wrong person. I don't know. Sorry. Does that help at all? I don't know who asked the question.
Yes, Rinaji,
Or does it confuse you more? Then you'll have to unwind what I said.
I do think there is something. There was a lot that I could take away from that answer.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I could, yeah. Because I find sometimes I find with a lot of the PhD things, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to do my PhD is because you get focused on one thing and then you make that the center point. But I've always been a generalist because I want to look at life and how that comes in and how we can relate that. And come back to Abhinay Maharaj, you say if they didn't get any idea from you, then go home, If the audience didn't get it, then you failed, that way. So there are a lot of things, many decades of talking I'm doing to you.
Well, Rinaji and Seema, I'm thinking maybe as much as it's sad to do it, it's 11:45 our time here. So we've been 1 hour and 15 minutes. And
yeah,
I really want to thank you again, Seema, for coming forth with this master series and for entertaining my what I know has proved to be a fantastic idea to bring Rinaji in. And Rinaji, for you to say, yes, you do it. Thank you.
Yeah, I was so thrilled because I was just beginning to feel very useless.
Oh my God.